Welcome to Connected Care Education. Today we are going to look at Unit 002, Principles and Values of Health and Social Care Children. Unit 002, Principles and Values of Health and Social Care Children's Learning Outcome 3, Understanding how to use child-centred approaches. Let's start by looking at the importance of person-centred approaches. Let's start by looking at the importance of child-centred approaches. The importance of child-centred approaches. Introduction. In health and social care, it is vital that children and young people have the right care to meet their needs, wishes and preferences. It is important that procedures are followed to ensure that needs are met. Children and young people should be at the centre of this process, so they feel that they are actively involved in their own care. Good, effective care planning can ensure the criteria is met. Care and support packages should never be made for the ease or convenience of workers. This is where child-centred approaches apply, by putting the child-young person at the centre of every activity and decision made. So what are child-centred approaches? A child-centred approach is being able to actively listen to children or young people and to support them to fulfil their aspirations. A co-productive approach, including parents and carers, can support the child to achieve their goals. A child-centred approach should recognise the needs of the child or young person and the circumstances surrounding them that could impact on them achieving in life. Working together and being aware and respectful of what is important to each child or young person will inform practice of how best to support them. Beliefs, values, abilities and preferences have to be taken into account when using child-centred approaches when planning to meet a children or young person's needs. Now we're going to look at co-production and voice, choice and control. Co-production and voice, choice and control. How to identify the preferences and backgrounds of individuals, what matters to them and the outcomes that they want. When assessing and planning, it is vital that the individual leads the process. Care professionals must remember that the individual is at the foundation of care planning. It is their body, their discomfort, their life and their care. Care planning, which is not individual-centred, is meaningless and not acceptable. Providing care that health and social care workers think individuals need is not appropriate. Health and social care workers must value an individual's role in this process. This is the best practice. It is essential to empower the individual in their own care. When establishing the preference and backgrounds of individuals, it is vital to ask the child or young person what they want and what they consider their needs to be. Leading questions should be avoided. For example, your after-school arrangements are fully meeting all your needs, aren't they? This may lead to agreement when it may not actually be the case. Open questions are preferred to closed questions, so instead of asking, "Are you happy?" the question could be rephrased as, "Tell me about how you feel at the moment." Co-production is an approach whereby professionals, children and young people and their families work together as equal partners to plan their care, ensuring that they are key decision makers in this process. Together, they can create a meaningful support package that will be beneficial for the children or young person to make changes in their lives. Co-production is value-driven and based on the principle that those who use a service are best placed to help design the service. So what is voice, choice and control? Giving children and young people a voice which enables them to make choices and decisions that are meaningful to them is extremely important. If children and young people are actively listened to, this will establish a positive interpersonal relationship whereby professionals and the children or young person can plan, implement and evaluate the choices that children or young person has made. Children and young people need to have their views and experiences taken into account on an ongoing basis to have choice and control in decisions that affect them. They need to be seen as children and young people and be given a voice to express who they are and what they want. The importance of knowing a child or young person's preference and background. Understanding a child or young person's preferences and background. It is important that children and young people are at the centre of the care planning process, so they feel that they are actively involved in their own care. Detailed and effective care planning can ensure all of their needs, wishes and preferences are met, and care packages should never be made without the involvement of the child or young person concerned. Being able to meet the holistic needs of children and young people is key to ensuring that we are not just focusing on one aspect of a child's needs, but ensuring all areas are considered and support is put in place for whatever the needs may be. The importance of understanding a child or young person's background. Being child-centred is about listening to and learning about what children and young people want from their lives, what they did and enjoyed in the past, and helping them to think about what they want now and in the future. The child or young person's experience, history, culture, beliefs, preferences, family, relationship, informal networks and community are all key to establishing a way forward and meeting their needs to enable positive progress. Family, friends, professionals and services need to work together with the children or young person to make this happen. Ways of working to establish the preferences and background of children and young people. How to identify the preferences and backgrounds of children and young people. When accessing and planning, it is vital that children and young people are involved in the process. Care professionals must remember that children and young people are at the foundation of care planning. It is their body, their discomfort, their life, their future and their care. Care planning, which is not child-centred, is meaningless and not acceptable. Providing care that health and social care workers think a child or young person's needs is not appropriate. Health and social care workers must value a children or young person's role in this process. This is the best practice. It is essential to empower children and young people in their own care. When establishing the preferences and backgrounds of children and young people, it is vital to ask the child or young person what they want and what they consider their needs to be. Leading questions should be avoided. For example, your after-school arrangements are fully meeting all your needs, aren't they? This may lead to agreement when it may not actually be the case. Open questions are preferred to closed questions. So instead of asking, "Are you happy?" the question could be phrased as, "Tell me about how you feel at the moment." Please pause the video here and complete worksheet Learning Outcome 3, Worksheet 1. Ways of working to establish the preferences and background of children and young people. Behaving towards people with dignity and respect. What does behaving towards children and young people with dignity and respect involve, and why this is central to the role of health and social care worker? We all expect to be treated with dignity and respect, and children and young people accessing health and social care services are no different. Behaving with dignity and respect towards children and young people involves respecting their views, their choices and decisions, not making assumptions about how they want to be treated, and working with care and compassion. Behaving towards children and young people with dignity and respect ensures children and young people who receive care and support are able to make choices about the care they receive. This includes decisions about their everyday care needs. If children and young people cannot make choices or are not supported to make choices, their care needs are not going to be met. Health and social care workers must ensure they behave towards children and young people with dignity and respect to ensure children and young people feel valued, regarded as children and young people with their own specific needs, and can trust that their needs will be identified, listened to, and met. Ways of working that support child-centred approaches. Child-centred approaches. Child-centred approaches consist of working in partnership with the children and young people and their parents and/or carers to plan for their care and support. The child is at the centre of the care planning process and should be in control of all choices and decisions made about their lives. The values of compassion, dignity and respect are important when involving children in their own care. Decisions should be shared decisions, with the child seen as an equal partner in their care, not decisions made by health and social care workers alone. Child-centred planning is about discovering and acting upon what is important to the child and what matters most to them in their lives. Please pause video here and complete worksheet Learning Outcome 3, Worksheet 2, Child-Centred Approaches. Features of child-centred ways of working. Working with the child, their parents and carers to identify the child's strengths and abilities will be the best way to decide about their welfare and help them to make their own decisions. For example, a child may want to make their own decisions about the activity they are able and want to participate in. The aim is to be that the child has much control as possible over the choices they make. The care plan is needs-led, not service-led or staff-led. This means that support is identified to meet the specific needs of the child to make their life better, and not around what is already available or what is easier for staff. For example, the diet planned is what is best for child, not what is already chosen by others. Active participation. How are person-centred approaches used to support active participation and inclusion? What is active participation? Active participation recognises the child or young person's right to participate in the activities and functions of everyday life as independently as possible. In doing this, the child or young person is an active partner in their own care and support, rather than receiving the care and support others think they need and want. Key benefits to the child or young person as an active partner in their own care or support include physical, physiological and social aspects, and improved well-being. How can we provide a rights-based approach? Often workers will be supporting children and young people when they are in a vulnerable position. The quality of care that can be provided will be improved if workers have knowledge of the whole person, not just the current circumstances. For example, knowledge can help to develop a better understanding as to why children or young people behave in the way that they do. Child-centred planning involves seeing the child or young person being supported as the central concern. Workers need to find ways to care for and support the children and young people that are specific to their needs. A rights-based approach involving child-centred planning is a way of helping children and young people to think about what they want now and in the future. It is about supporting children and young people to plan their lives, work towards their goals, and get the right support. It is a collection of tools and approaches based upon a set of shared values that can be used to plan with the child or young person, not for them. Planning should build the child or young person's circle of support and involve all the children or young persons who are important in that child, young or young person's life. Please pause the video here and complete worksheet Learning Outcome 3, Worksheet 3. How can we provide a rights-based approach? The importance of supporting children and young people's engagement in activities and experiences. Meaningful and enjoyable activities and experiences. A child or young person's well-being includes their sense of hope, confidence and self-esteem, their ability to communicate their wants and needs, socialising and experiencing pleasure or enjoyment. This can involve the activities and experiences a child or young person chooses to take part in. To promote a child or young person's well-being, they need to be happy with as many aspects of their life as possible. If the child or young person, their parents or carers, think that something would help them to feel better, health and social care workers need to be positive, understanding, empathetic and non-judgmental. They should listen to what the child or young person considers important in their lives and help them to make the changes they want, such as being able to join in particular activities or groups, for example. Please pause the video here and complete worksheet Learning Outcome 3, Worksheet 4, Meaningful and Enjoyable Activities and Experiences. How child-centred approaches are used to support active participation and inclusion. Active participation and inclusion. Professionals should work alongside children and young people to find out what they enjoy doing and what is important to them, including their hobbies and interests. As a result of this discussion, steps can be taken to see what can be done to organise this and support the child or young person. Please pause the video here and complete worksheet Learning Outcome 3, Worksheet 5, Active Participation and Inclusion. Establishing consent with a child or young person. So what is consent? In relation to the provision of health and social care services, it is important to remember that it is a legal requirement that consent is established before providing support to a child or young person. Establishing consent is a way that health and social care workers can show they respect the child or young person. The process of establishing consent is a part of the process of developing trust between health and social care workers and the child or young person. Under legislation, children under the age of 16 are able to consent to their own treatment if they are considered to have the ability and understanding to fully comprehend what the proposed treatment involves. This is known as being GILIC, competent. Otherwise, someone with parental responsibility can consent for them. Consent can be given in a number of ways. This can be through verbal communication, in writing, or through actions. The child or young person might also allow another child or young person to do something with or to them, perhaps by raising an arm to be supported when dressing, therefore indicating consent. Informed consent is given when the child or young person understands what they are consenting to. Parental responsibility. What is parental responsibility? Most parents have legal rights and responsibilities which are known collectively as parental responsibility. Parental responsibility involves providing a home for a child or young person, as well as protecting the child or young person. Parental responsibility also involves legal rights and duties, powers, responsibilities, and any authority a parent has for a child or young person and their property. Parental responsibility is a legal status underpinned by the Children's Act 1989. Others, besides parents, can have parental responsibility for a child or young person. For example, a local authority for children and young people in its care, a child or young person's guardian, their stepfather or other relatives will be able to acquire parental responsibility in certain circumstances. An individual who has parental responsibility for a child or young person has the right to make decisions about their care and upbringing. However, any important decisions in a child or young person's life must be agreed with any other individuals who have parental responsibility. And finally, the purpose of personal plans. What are personal plans? A personal plan identifies a child or young person's care needs, the types of services they will receive to meet those needs, and who will provide the services and when. The role of the child or young person in their personal care planning has long been recognised as important. It is prioritised as best practice and has been developing as a way forward for all future care planning. However, the idea has evolved that children and young people requiring care should be involved in every stage of the planning process. This process needs to be a continuous cycle as needs can change. A personal plan meeting a child-young person's holistic needs when implemented may not meet the requirements 6 months later. In relation to health, holistic means seeing the whole child or young person, not just their physical health, but also their emotional, sexual, social, intellectual, mental and spiritual health. When we care for someone, we need to consider all these needs, which can be interlinked. Please pause the video here and complete worksheet Learning Outcome 3, Worksheet 6, the purpose of personal plans.